What if I'm not funny this time? Wait, what if I'm never funny?
I think that's a more legitimate concern. Perhaps we're never funny.
I don't have a mic in front of me, so I didn't chime in.
Just put your hand up
Okay.
and make eye contact, and
Okay.
We
I'm
usually-
good. Oh, I can put it down? Okay.
yeah.
Sorry. Audio medium. I had my hand up.
No, but that's good because we did start a cult last time, and it's good to know that it is already rubbing off, and our studio audience is just taking my orders.
You can just take the mic out of my hand. That's why I sit on all the guest laps.
Yeah.
Penny makes me share it. She likes to talk all the time.
Carla's the baby. She sits in
Right.
the lap.
Right.
And sometimes she just holds the mic up for them.
Sometimes when she's like, I'm done talking, here, you talk. Kidding. That's usually the move you go for, though, when you're done talking, is you just put the mic on someone else.
Indifferently Depraved Book Club is really proud to welcome Jimmy Toledo to the show this week.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
I am going to go ahead and ask you to introduce. It was your selection.
Yeah, I chose American Psycho. It didn't really occur to me at the time that I selected it. I was just like, oh, it's a really good book about serial killers. But other things occurred to me as I was reading it again.
Jump right into it. So what other things? You had some revelations this time.
Well, due to the character's obsession with the at that time, I guess, hip Donald Trump, and his behavior and attitudes towards things, it becomes way more.
Completely different tone.
Yeah, it takes a completely different tone now.
This book was written in, I didn't look it up.
I want to say 91.
That sounds about right. And most people's exposure to it is with the film that came in
That was 2000, I believe.
2001. Yeah.
I really liked the movie.
So
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I saw the movie first, as I always do. I don't know. Has anybody not seen the movie? Maybe. Have we all seen it?
No,
Trina, have you seen it? Trina's over there in the studio audience. It's about a...
Jesus Christ. I will recommend, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm not really a fan of this work, but I recommend that people watch it because it is such a cultural reference and touch point.
It's a
Right.
satire about how terrible the 80s is.
Okay. I think that is definitely a theme. My takeaway from the book, and I think I read it around the same time as you, I got like halfway through it and I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. It's so, I think there was like a 4-page series where it's all these terrible things after another. This is boring. It's like violence and it's boring. Oh, okay, I got it now. I think that to me was the major theme of the book, the desensitization.
Yeah, and I think it might also have, something to do with how just like the way society is structured and the people in charge of things and the financiers or what have you are, kind of driving that sort of desensitization to depravity.
Yes, it's a very brief slice of life.
It is. It's short. It's Patrick Bateman. He's a rich, hot, young Wall Street tycoon. And I think it kind of expands on the idea of rich people can get away with whatever they want and takes that in a really interesting direction. He just sort of like, at the beginning, he just talks about himself and his self-obsession, and he kind of becomes more and more unhinged.
Yes, he very clearly has this sort of compulsion to list things. So you get really bored with all the listing. Like he gets up in the morning and he talks about every single product he uses. There's this anxiety that he has that rises through the book because it is sort of, it's a mental
when you
breakdown.
mention like him going through his routine in the morning, and it takes about 4 pages and there are no paragraph breaks.
Yes, and that's an intentional choice, I think, on Bret Easton Ellis's part, is that it is just a barrage.
Yeah, this is just the background noise in his head the whole time he's going through everything.
He seems to be also almost a Xerox copy. So he's just so completely fucking insane, but there's so many people just like him.
Yeah, they're all wearing the horn-rimmed glasses with no prescription.
There's a really iconic scene in the film where everyone's throwing down their stupid fucking business cards.
That subtle off-white color.
it's such a triumph as a film where it gets across his internal, because like you were saying, it is a very internally driven book.
He's mad that the murder victim's apartment is cooler than his.
Yes, he'd be obsessed with social media.
He would definitely be online and trolling everyone, and he would essentially, like, Patrick Bateman is like, you know, he's Trump obsessed, he's racist, sexist, homophobic, he actively stabs homeless people. Patrick Bateman is the alt-right, but only in like 1980s America.
I guess my favorite passages, I remember he goes to McDonald's. He's astounded at how cheap it is.
The obsession with, like, I have to have a reservation here. I have to have a reservation. I don't care if we're eating. I just want a reservation. They want to go there, and they want to be seen because they know Donald Trump eats there. They know Tom Cruise eats there. They know Michael J. Fox eats there.
His day is constantly taken up with securing a status and holding a status. It is constantly, I'm calling this person, I'm getting new business cards, and I'm getting this reservation, and I'm getting this tailored, and I need new this. And
But the reason we're talking about it is because he starts killing people.
you follow this
Yeah.
deterioration, this complete dissociation.
Yeah. I think it's important to say that he does all this stuff. He's obsessed with all these things and all these people and being seen and keeping up with the Joneses because he wants to fit in.
He has no connections to people. Like, everything is incredibly superficial to him. He doesn't relate to other people as if they're human beings at all.
So what's his name? Paul Allen. Why does he kill him? Why does he kill that guy?
Is it because he has the Fisher account?
Is it like, what's that movie called? The Talented Mr. Ripley. He kills him just to steal his life.
I think that's part of it. And it's also, like, no one calls him by his actual name. Like Tim Price does, but I think he's imaginary. In the book, he just kind of disappears at an early scene, and then he doesn't come back until shit gets real wild.
So he's sort of a Greek chorus almost. The denouement of this book is that this is largely taking place in his head, or entirely in his head.
Yeah, it's heavily implied.
Not only people who are murdered, but like there are other. What if this is real?
Yeah, I mean, number one, dude would not have a friend. Nobody's hanging out with that guy.
No, the intensity, the absolute intensity. Like reading this book is like I can just hear his teeth grinding.
He talks about murdering all these people, and then there's overwhelming evidence that he really didn't. Characters are like, no, I've seen that person alive.
I just saw
He
him,
goes into the
man.
apartment where he thinks he left all the bodies, and it's like for sale. Nothing's there.
It's like he doesn't know how to feel, if he should feel relief that he doesn't have to worry about the trouble that he'd be in, disappointed that he's not this badass killer that he had built up in his head.
Yeah, and they're real, real murderers who've like killed 3 people and say it's 300. And do they actually believe that they did those things, or are they just trying to get attention?
There are a lot of references to
Ed Gein, Ted Bundy.
Bundy. Yes, absolutely Bundy. Charming, well-dressed, someone that could have very much been a Patrick Bateman.
The thing I was going to chime in and say about whether or not this was a real thing, I think in the book a good indication comes in the big police shootout scene. He completely disassociates. He starts referring to himself in the third person in the book.
It wasn't until I was preparing for this that I was like, oh, it's a book, American Psycho. I was like, it has a lot of similarities to Psycho, American Psycho. And it gave me a little bit more respect for Bret Easton Ellis when I realized that.
It's a well-written book.
It is.
He uses style in the characterization of Patrick.
It is.
And really, it expresses, the no paragraph breaks, the change in first to third person. I mean, stylistically, it is a really good book, even if it's all titties and blood.
I love Titties and Blood. It's just
Titties and Blood make a damn fine book. I'm just saying.
yes, and there's no argument there. I just find, I tried some of his other, do you remember the film Rules of Attraction?
Yeah. Less Than Zero?
Lesson Zero, and there was a sequel to Lesson Zero. I can't remember the title.
Oh, yeah. That just came out like a few years ago, right?
I read that too. And let me tell you, Rules of Attraction, when it came out, their whole campaign was off mark because I remember looking at the ad and being like, I don't want to see that. And I watched it later and I was like, I fucking loved that film. I thought it was awesome. And I read the book. The camp levels, the parody works a little better for the movies, and it's kind of fucking bleak when you're reading it. He's very cruel to all his female characters, and that wears on me. And it's just across the board. all of his books. It's
Yeah.
just nasty.
At least in American Psycho, it makes sense because I mean Patrick Bateman he's going to treat women and men and everyone like absolute shit, and specifically women though because he's Patrick Bateman.
And I get like his other like Rules of Attraction, Lesson Zero. It's like the California version of that kind of culture, and it's very much using women up. But it's just, come on, can we not have an interesting female character who's not just a victim all the time in every single one of the books you write?
Gene,
And what?
in the book, she's not killed in the book.
Okay.
She's not killed in the movie either. He tells her to run away. I don't want to hurt you. It's like the one he lets get away for whatever reason.
Yeah, but I mean,
She's still like, what can I wear to please you? Oh, I love you.
yeah, she's that is her being acted upon. She survives, but it's not because she's an interesting individual character that stood out. She was just like still just this little sheep bot, just adoring Patrick and what can I do for Patrick, and you want me to leave
But
Patrick?
that's his perspective.
I know.
That's his perspective.
I
And
kn-
that's why the women come across that way, because he's telling the story and that's how he sees women.
But how cleverly this book was written for other clues. There could have been a lot more clues that this was a strong, like he could, I'm sorry, you could have done better.
Well, as far as like foreshadowing whether or not it was a real thing that happened or if he's just schizophrenic as opposed to sociopathic.
Yeah.
Or both.
I just think there are enough clues. Bret Easton Ellis himself is sort of this like of a society level that he's writing about, and I don't want to hang out with that dude. I mean, I've read a lot of his books and I don't regret reading them, but I'm not going to go back and read them and enjoy it. I do want to say a lot of my irritation with the book and especially the film is just how many fuckboys worship it, just like Fight Club. I think they came out around the same time.
Oh yeah, Fight Club didn't come out until like 1998. I would actually say that like the first time I read American Psycho, it kind of made me look a little bit lesser of Fight Club.
Bret Easton Ellis is better at it. He's a better writer. Sorry, Chuck. Sorry, Chuck fans in your horde, but he's a better writer.
Yeah.
That dude is not a good writer. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
We
I'm
all
not
love
sorry.
Fight Club. Blah, blah,
Blah,
blah.
blah, blah,
That guy's
blah.
not a good writer.
Shut up, dude. Fuck off.
Joke was all right.
I want to hear a little bit about that. You said it changed your opinion of Fight Club.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just seems like Chuck Palahniuk, or is that correct?
Nobody knows.
Okay,
No one knows.
Chuck Palahniuk.
Nobody knows but the fuck boys.
I read Choke before I think I even read Fight Club. Like I saw Fight Club. It was a pretty good movie. It didn't like change my life. It didn't make me want to become a paramilitant fuckboy. I liked it. Had good visuals.
Yeah, fine. It was fine. Yeah.
It was well acted.
Yeah, there's a dearth of interesting female characters in it.
Hell of a twist at the end made me ensure that I would only watch it the one time because you just remember it.
The fuckboys watch it over and over.
First rule of fuckboys, you don't talk about fuckboy.
That's an excellent rule. All right, no, we're talking about fuckboys.
I was about to dedicate this episode to the fuck boys. We did not harm any fuck boys in the recording of this episode.
No. And fuckboys is a gender neutral term, I feel.
Oh, I've met some girl fuck boys.
I mean, but they present as women, wouldn't they be fuck girls?
No.
No.
Still fuckboys? Still fuckboys?
Yes.
Okay.
I just spilled wine all over myself. This is great.
Back to the book.
Back to the book. Back to the book.
It's better than Fight Club.
It's better than Fight Club.
Better than Fight Club. But it's not my favorite of his works, and he's not my favorite anything.
Yeah, I think it's the only actual book of his I've read. I liked Less Than Zero as a movie, though.
I recommend Rules of Attraction. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'll say this about American Psycho: I think that it would have worked so much better as a short story, like a long short story.
I like the film a lot more, and I think that's why it's an edited version.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it needs some editing, but it's a good book. I think Jimmy Toledo likes it because he's a giant music nerd, and I think that factors into his appreciation of the character.
There's some fantastic scenes. Of course the scene with him putting on the raincoat, gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
Huey Lewis in the News. Those music tirades he goes on when he's like about to kill somebody in the movie are like devoted chapters in the book, and they usually follow like a really messed up thing. Like the shooting spree is followed immediately by that Huey Lewis in the News monologue, which is also like 4 pages with no paragraph breaks.
It's really ritualistic, and it's what, like, say some serial killers, they are very religious. He sits around monologues, litanies about pop culture.
That is his religion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we think any of it's real? Christy, is she real?
She might be real.
I think that he was a jerk off that went to the office every day and
But still, people thinking he's like Paul Haversam or, Joe Davis or whoever are, also saying, oh, Bateman, that Claude.
he just had a huge mental breakdown while having a very high pressure job. And it's kind of like Wizard of Oz, like you were there and you were there and you were there.
Yeah, I mean, it's very likely that people call him all these names because he introduces himself with different aliases, like he's a whack job. It could all be in his mind. And he knows he's a fuck off, so that's why they're all telling him this. They could be real, and he could have made up stories to all these people. And it's hard to be ambiguous. It's hard to write something that's ambiguous, and I think it definitely accomplishes that.
Yes, and I have to give that a lot of respect. It's
Yeah.
so hard to pull off.
Hence my reaction, like whenever asked about if it's real or not, I'm like, it could be. The disappearance and then reappearance of Tim Price, and then like the whole shootout sequence.
That confirms it to me that this is these things are not of this stake at all in the real world.
The U2 concert in the book, when he looks into the eyes of Bono, and Bono's like, I am the devil and you are too.
Jesus fucking Christ. It's just like Son of Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a Son of Sam moment.
See, that sounds really believable to me.
I agree. I fucking hate you too.
I think it's the only explanation for the longevity of their shitty band. All the murders made up. Bono's the devil, 100% true. 100% true.
100,000% true.
Burn your records.
Burn your records.
Burn your records. Keep Morrissey. Morrissey's okay. Burn Bono.
The thing that really indicates that he is truly a bad person, though, is his love and obsession with Phil Collins. Another 4-page chapter just being like, I hated the Peter Gabriel era, but Phil Collins is the dope.
I love Phil Collins.
How are you going to ruin watching some girl eat another girl's ass when you paid both of them for that by playing Susudio in the background?
That's a great song.
I think it just had a high-paced beat that made him want to fuck.
Who fucks to Susudio?
It's a little upbeat.
Patrick Bateman, while looking at himself in the mirror and flexing.
No, it's all wrong.
What's that one called? The Edge of Night song.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't know that one. Edge of Night.
Oh, like the Depeche Mode song?
You can fuck to any Depeche Mode song.
This is a fact. I tried it.
That's what they're made for. He also has to return his porno tapes every day.
He's always got some tapes to return. See, I just get a flavor. And I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I get a feeling that the prostitute stuff's for real. And that's definitely what real killers do to warm up.
So he will get 1 or 2 girls over. He likes to set up a video camera and record. He likes to give a lot of specific instructions. Does he even choose their clothing? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the
Fucking asshole.
Daisy, right? He dresses her and makes her bathe and stuff.
Yes,
The escort
okay.
he's paying like real money for, he just takes as it comes. Like, oh, you're just a dirty blonde, I see.
One of the best scenes in the film is he chases a girl out of his apartment. She's like, fuck this. She knows what's coming. And it ends up with him dropping the chainsaw through the stairwell. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this cannot be fucking real. There's never a reaction from the real world.
Definitely.
100%
You can't murder someone with a chainsaw
in a stairwell. And
penthouse apartment building.
Yeah, and then it immediately cuts to him drawing it in his ledger book.
And he's supposed to be working. So this is just supporting my theory that this is just him losing his shit.
And I definitely find the movie more entertaining. Maybe I shouldn't say better because the clunky scene where Chloe Sevigny finds the murder doodle book and she's looking through it. Oh no! Oh, he's a madman!
Her little face is just melting. She's like, ba 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 ba.
If your website's lame and it does no good, who you gonna call?
Having your own website doesn't have to be frightening. Cucumber & Company's proven approach will get you online fast.
And our prices slime the competition.
Server crashed last night. You ain't got no site. Who you gonna call?
Call Cucumber & Company today, 304-250-0123, or online at cucumberandcompany.com.
Can we get into his treatment of like women he doesn't murder, like Courtney
Yes,
and
his-
Evelyn and Jean.
Yes. Let's talk about that. His secretary that's just in love with.
Yeah, the poor puppy dog secretary, the oblivious, loving girlfriend,
His
and
ice cold loving girlfriend.
yeah, the drugged up girl who's marrying the dude who also wants to fuck Patrick Bateman, Lewis Carruthers. Yeah, it's odd he doesn't murder any of them, especially Carruthers.
He didn't murder anybody, but he
Yeah.
didn't imagine murdering them.
Number 1, I don't think he murdered anybody either. Number 2, he didn't imagine murdering them. Number 3, those characters all lend to the satire tone to me. Like, it's like this idea of rich, fucked up people in Manhattan. This is what they would be like. Reese Witherspoon, she does a really good job with the character. I was impressed. You know, she does a lot of goofy movies that I don't really like, but she's good in that. She's a good actress.
Yeah, in the book though, he's like savage with Evelyn. He feeds her a chocolate-covered urinal cake, and
Yes.
after they break up, he sends her a box of flies for Valentine's Day. Like,
But is that real?
is that real? It could be.
What do you think, Carla? Is that real? The urinal cake, the box of flies?
I don't know. Yeah, what if he's like H.H. Holmes and it's all made up?
Yes.
He's not even a Wall Street broker.
Yes, H.H. Holmes is an excellent connection, and he was also just an incredible faker and pretender.
Yeah, he makes everything up.
It's a huge American tall tale.
H.H. Holmes is a made-up name.
Yeah.
This whole story that he's descended from nobility, it was all made up.
He invented a lot of stuff, and then America invented even more for him. So and Patrick Bateman himself is sort of a folklore character. He's this huge boogeyman, but in his own mind. But at the same time, it could have been part of that degeneration. People do, when they start getting really fucking wacky, do things like send a box of dead flies in the mail.
Yeah, I mean that's like the girlfriend cutting the hair off and then giving it to you to break up with you or whatever.
It's fucking weird.
That's it's just a creepy move to do to an ex. I'd change my name.
No, I'd fucking call the cops. There would be documentation of that. You cannot let stuff like that slide.
But they fly away. They're flies.
They were
It's
dead.
a perfect crime.
Oh my god.
He eats like a bunch of burgers one day and or milkshakes and burgers.
I don't think he hates it. I think he's just like astounded
Yeah.
that anything could cost that little. He's completely out of touch with like
Yeah.
regular wages and costs.
I think that's connected to one of his like disassociative episodes where he just like comes to, he's like disheveled as hell in a phone booth
Remember
calling for
Phone
movie times or whatever.
Oh god.
Or no, calling his answering machine.
God. It's such a fucking artifact. Calling for your answering machine, phone booths, returning rented videotapes. I love it.
Speaking of the answering machine, that's how he confesses to being a killer. He calls and leaves a message on his attorney's answering machine, listing off all of his various crimes, his murders.
Yeah, no, he runs into the lawyer, and the lawyer's like, haha, good try, Davis. Knew you weren't Patrick Bateman. That guy's a total dick.
He feels so thwarted.
Yeah.
In a way, because it's not the ending that he's expecting.
He's not getting his recognition.
Shit. I was trying to think of the serial killer that reminded me of.
BTK? He loves that recognition.
His obsession with the media attention and contacting the media.
That's how he got caught.
Yeah. He trapped himself with technology.
That's what I was thinking about with the whole like watching yourself in the mirror. You know, Dennis Rader would take pictures of himself.
Oh my god,
in
yes.
real life.
His selfies. His pre-selfie selfies.
Ugh, his jerking himself off in his kid's training bra selfies.
Yeah. And there's Patrick Bateman recording himself
Yeah.
having sex with prostitutes and supposedly in his mind murdering them. But not really. He just paid them.
Maybe.
and they
Maybe
were
paying them
like,
extra to torture them a little. Because he does do that
Yes.
early on in the movie and the book. If he didn't kill her that time, I think he actually may have killed like the hookers and the homeless people if he didn't kill anyone else, like Paul Allen.
See, yeah, I agree that it's much more likely that somebody would kill somebody like that, someone who's homeless, someone who's a sex worker, somebody that's a fringe. I still don't know if he did or not. My leaning is that he didn't, because that's the pretense of the book is about status and him feeling like a phony, and he is a phony.
So you think all made up? He didn't kill anybody.
I don't think he killed anybody. No, there's no way that he is so completely he's so dissociated in the state that he is in. There's no way that he could effectively do it
I don't think Patrick Bateman's even real.
and not be caught. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that-
he's Davis or Halberstam or whoever.
yeah, or someone we don't.
That's actually my upcoming financial firm.
Davis and Halberstam.
Yeah, Davis, Halberstam, and whoever.
Oh yeah, let's go all the way with it. Yeah, it's all completely castles in the air. It doesn't exist. Like he's not even that person that gets the
You see it-
reservations.
You think this might be like a catatonic event or something like that?
What do you think, Carla?
I'll give him one dead hooker.
Is
Jimmy?
this like an out of 5 scale? I mean, this book is
Where
at
do-
least 4 dead hookers out of 5.
Like, where do you land with it? What do you think?
Oh, like how far does it go? That's really because like I just kind of accept a vague ending as a vague ending and go, hey, it could have happened, and then
That's great.
move on.
I think that shows the kind of readers that we are.
Like, so I'm like, yeah, so like it's whatever you take from it, right?
Yes, I mean there are different schools of thought. Some people feel like there's really just one. There's one way. There's one story, and it's how the author intended.
Yeah.
But especially if you have an author who is intentionally being vague, but sometimes they do like there are clues, and they're like there's a certain interpretation. David
Yeah.
Lynch is like that with a lot of things. It's like there is, but I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah. I think he probably killed a few people. I don't think he went on like the big shootout with the cops.
No,
or
there's no way.
I don't think he killed Marcus or
No.
or
Especially anyone in his life that he knew. There's no way he murdered any of them.
where he brutally kills his ex-girlfriend, like his college girlfriend or whatever in the book. It was
Fantasy.
gross.
Yeah, that was yeah.
Yeah, that's 100% like sadistic fantasy. It's almost as if he's a little angry right-wing troll. He's a Pepe.
Yeah, and if he existed now, he would have that Pidgeotto haircut.
Oh God.
Yeah.
No, he does.
He does.
He does kind of like in the book anyway.
The little
it's-
pompadour.
Yeah, the little pompadour
Yeah.
and the suspenders.
So yeah.
Getting things out of all sorts of stuff is what Patrick Bateman liked to do. He's always trying to like. I like how Dorsia, the restaurant Dorsia, became like a particular pain point for him in the book. Like he couldn't get a reservation there forever. They laughed in his face when he tried to get one. And all of a sudden, his like loser brother has a reservation to meet him there. And then whenever he's asking Jean, the poor puppy dog secretary, out, she wants to go there. And so they fake going there. And she thinks it's like a fun date thing to try to like sneak into the restaurant or whatever when he's like super embarrassed by it.
Oh my God. And here's my question is, was them laughing in his face even real? Because it goes along with not only would he be imagining all these terrible things he's
I
doing,
think-
but he's exaggerating the negativity that he receives from other people. So things that are mundane transactions to other people, he is perceiving them in this incredible, because it's so loaded and everything means so much.
That's the narcissist way, man. Any compliment is you're a fucking god. Any insult is like so injurious to them. Everything's very exaggerated because their place in the world is exaggerated within their own perception. And I think he's very much like that, whether it's made up or not. The center of it is his obsession with himself. That's why he runs on for 20 paragraphs. It's all about being seen, impressing people.
So even a neutral reaction to him is perceived as very negative and a judgment on who he is deeply, and it needs to be addressed and rectified and healed in some way.
Instead of just the truth, which is no one's ever paying attention to you, no one gives a fuck about you, and they forget about you 5 seconds after you're out of their face.
Yes, but he can't handle that. He needs them to remember him.
I think he kind of
forever.
acknowledges that, though, that no one's paying attention to him because he's always saying, like, the nasty shit to people's faces, supposedly. Yeah, like in the movie in at the bar towards the beginning where he's like, I want to murder you and play with your blood.
I don't think it's an acknowledgement of how he's insignificant. I think it's an acknowledgement of how he's superior. I think it's more, I can do this and get away with it, rather than they're not paying attention. It's like they're so stupid they won't notice.
Or what
I think is more the
who
more
would dare
the-
to say anything to me? They're just that their job depends on this. So, but in actuality, he's probably not saying any of that shit because you can't go around acting like that.
you know,
That's the
people
bottom
notice.
line. People think this is just a parody of people being rich, and like you were saying, it's just you know, but it's not just that because he's crazy. Like the man's insane.
Yeah.
And like I was talking about with Psycho, it being a parallel to like the Norman Bates and his.
Pat definitely has a degeneration in his psyche, or I guess his surroundings as well, if you're going to take it all in face literally. Like, as it progresses, you know, things get way grosser in his apartment.
An interesting feature of the writing is that those beginning of the book litanies that he like goes on and on for pages about brands and products and things that he does and buys and status symbols, and then it becomes a litany, like a 5-page litany of violence and depravity. So we're going from these two things, and in a way it's kind of contrasting and saying that this moral emptiness is sort of on par with the moral emptiness that you know that it requires to become a murderer and rapist.
I know a lot of analyses of the book draw the comparison of like a consumerist to becoming a literal consumer of people. A lot of people make that comparison, which is probably a little base. I think it's, like you were saying, more complicated than that with the psychology, the abnormal psychology factors. However, from a satirical point of view, it is very fuck the 80s, Reagan sucks, America sucks, which is all true.
It's purposeful, and it's just a literary
Which
device.
is why 2018 sucks.
It's a fantastic literary device, and I think that it's like I said, like you were saying before, the writing's wonderful, but it's just very wearing on me overall because of how nasty it is. And it's kind of like Human Centipede 2. It's just nasty. That doesn't have like Human Centipede 1. I thought had this level of camp and fun to it.
I fell off on Human Centipede. Anything Human Centipede.
So you didn't finish the first one?
You know, anything that involves a mouth being sewed to an anus, I'm pretty much not
you
into
either
it.
get it past it or you don't. With
I,
that.
of course, would never watch anything related to that in any fashion.
Of course not.
But I love that you're making this comparison.
But those are our audience that have. The first one is sort of this mad scientist thing. It's shot in Germany, and it's just beautiful. It looks good. It's just wacky as shit. You got this crazy mad scientist like ordering around its centipede in the yard to do tricks like a pony. It's hilarious. And then Human Centipede 2 is just this really great. Like, they made the most physically unappealing man with this very, very caricature relationship with his mother, like a Norman Bates situation, just screaming constantly. There's no nuance to it, and he's just it lost just the charming element of some crazy German doctor in this beautiful home with an indoor pool.
No.
So that's kind of where it is for me. Like it lacks that.
But yeah, but as time progresses in the book or what have you, like things will, you know, it'll get real gross as it goes. It escalates real hard towards the end of the book. And it seems like the movie itself is just kind of like the second half of the book. Like it starts off with just like we're going to give you way less exposition because you don't really need to know about all these characters, and we're going to kind of mash up some events here and there. And then we're going to get used to the straight dope of the end game.
Yeah, as brief as book as it is, like the films do have to sacrifice a lot of that, but it's still really, the film did a lot and enriched the book, I think, which is a hard thing to do. I usually don't like films more than I like books.
You know why? Because a woman directed it.
That's also true.
A woman fixed it.
It's true, yes. And like his little goofy secretary seemed more human than she did in the book. The women, come on. There's like paper dolls in the book. It's just a mouth moving.
I don't know. She seemed to have she seemed to be a little bit more doughy-eyed in the book, but like in the movie, like, oh, she's just the person who finds the murder book.
There's not a lot that the original text gives us, and she isn't going to deviate too far from that, which I kind of would have liked that. It is a very faithful.
If she's real and he's real, anybody who would spend any real amount of time with this man would know he was unhinged. And perhaps her finding the journal is some kind of like, you know, wrap it up and tie a bow on it kind of explanation or device for that.
He's kind of a sweaty, nervous individual in most of his interactions, actually.
I haven't watched the film in a really long time, and I kind of maybe should have before this, just to kind of see how those female characters got to do what they did on screen with the very limited time that they were given. Huh. Sorry, guys. Had a
Yeah, no,
busy-
they only
busy
all
month.
get about 10 minutes of screen time apiece, which is really weird because, like, you know, each of those women, like Courtney and Evelyn and Jean, they all kind of get a good amount of devotion to each one of them. Less so Evelyn than Jean and Courtney, I think. But
I think it's, again, just like the author interprets them that they're unimportant to Patrick. I think it's the director's interpretation to not have them around very much. They're not essential to him. They're completely non-essential. It's just like, I need something to put my penis in. I need something to sit across the table from me so I can be seen at this fancy restaurant. He's always telling women what to wear. He doesn't want to be seen with anyone unattractive or wearing last season's fucking blazer or what the hell ever people were wearing in the 80s.
Definitely blazers with shoulder pads.
wait, so he dresses his dates. He's Kanye. Kanye's less murdery than Patrick Bateman.
I don't know. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe
He
Kanye's
is
murdering.
kind of image obsessed and bipolar. He
Bless
hates
him.
it. It's awesome.
Listen, y'all can insult fuckboys all you want, but when you start bringing Kanye into this, then I might have a problem.
I like his music. His fucking fashion line is terrible.
I don't know anything about that. I don't know what a season is. Is that like, like fall? Like, these are
This is-
trench coats.
We did 2
Oh,
a
it's
year.
spring. Here's a bathing suit.
Florals for spring. Groundbreaking.
Are there only 2 in fashion, though? Or are there still
Yeah.
4? Just 2. Down to 2.
Oh boy, all the fashion in the book. Everyone's wearing different brands.
That's the
of
best
shirt,
part. That's the best part.
jacket, Cumberband by Brooks Brothers,
And of course,
Paul Allen shoes, or what have you.
what comes across better in the movie is that they all basically look the same anyway.
Yeah, they're wearing the same stuff. They're
Yeah.
all wearing the same stuff.
Nobody's wearing Paul Allen shoes but Patrick Bateman.
And he might actually just be Paul Allen.
Did you guys see Black Swan?
I have not.
That's another one that's just complete. Yeah, there's a lot of the duality and who is who and is this person real? Did I kill anybody? Is anybody dead?
Yeah, probably.
So I don't even know anymore if I'm real, you're real, if Jimmy Toledo's real. Is this podcast real? Could be.
Well, is the podcast real?
I don't know. Or is it all just made up in our minds? Or is it made up in your mind?
If no one listens to a shitty podcast in the forest, did it even play?
I guess we'll know we're real by how many Instagram likes we get.
Patrick Bateman would be all about that.
Yeah, and he would turn up his nose at our social media stats. We're like,
He wouldn't be impressed by us in any way.
No.
My dress is from Walmart.
my shirt is from Goodwill.
Shit.
Shit.
He wouldn't even pay us to fuck him.
No, we have like 400 plays on Podbean. He'd be like, I can't even talk to you.
I think it is kind of it's a dystopian novel, but it's set just like in the recent future instead. Like it has that fantasy kind of element. It's an exaggerated version.
It's a dystopian book, but it's about the castles in
Yeah.
his mind.
Exactly. But I think a lot of it's based in reality.
Yeah. So, and there are a lot of lessons to be learned in this, children. That is, treat mental health signs early and often so you don't degenerate into this.
The Trump thing's a coincidence, but I think it underscores what a great point the book makes with this is the way things are going. We're going back to that separation between the classes like Kenny was talking about when we discussed that book. You know,
Yes.
it's back to there's no middle class anymore. It's rich people and poor people with very little interaction in between, nobody living in between.
And the bars between the two are growing wider and wider apart.
And a lot of people look at the 80s as what started that whole thing.
It's sort of a benchmark for us. Even though the 90s were sort of good for the middle class, you could see that the times they were changing.
Worth a read? What's your opinion, Penny Maple? Do you recommend this book to your friends?
I do recommend seeing the film, reading the book. I think that anybody that is interested in crime or horror, if you haven't seen it, it's kind of a benchmark. There's so many cultural references to it. There's so many cultural references in it that it's just informative, and it's well written enough to get past the things that I hate about it.
Jimmy Toledo, you picked this book. Why do you like it?
Well, I like it because, you know, kind of going with the dystopian thing, it does kind of feel like a book about unrepentant capitalism gone awry, unrestricted capitalism, and also just like the whole Trump obsession with it kind of
Me generation.
Yeah, Me Generation, and then how like that generation's kind of in charge. How this like icon of the yuppies.
We've sort of
is now in
rebranded
charge.
that into we're the age of self-care now. And it's just another way to sell consumerism. I think that would be a good reason to read it. Kind of cautionary to remind yourself,
I don't know anyone who's as crazy as Patrick Bateman, but I know a whole lot of people who are as self-obsessed as Patrick Bateman.
self-obsessed and who buy into who have been programmed in a kind of consumer way.
Be wary of your credit score and never murder anyone with a chainsaw.
It's time to kill.